2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Missoula. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on this Monday? No. Tuesday. Had the day off yesterday. You can tell because we're barely figuring out how to even get into this thing. Afternoon. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Plenty of things to get to. A little bit of NHL, a little bit of state championships around the state, and yes, the Toronto Raptors making it into the NBA Finals. Outstanding to be with you. Thanks for spending some time with us on your radios. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us online at 1029ESPN.com. There, you can listen to the show anytime you would like to, thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity, and the Opportunity Bank stream on the website. You can also pick up your phone and call us, 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Hope you are having a great day. Today we got a bunch of stuff to get to. This is Colter's sweet spot is what we call this first 30 minutes of this show today, talking about some track and field state championships around the state, also softball state championships as well. So we'll get into all of that stuff. We will talk about some of the giveaways that we got coming up. We will talk about the Toronto Raptors in the next hour and their matchup with the Golden State Warriors. Where we at on this is they proved a lot of people wrong, including the two guys in this studio who had Milwaukee winning that thing, and it did not happen. The Toronto Raptors, for the first time in franchise history, going to the NBA Finals. And also, Game 1 in the NHL Stanley Cup Final in the books, the Bruins 4-2 winners yesterday over the St. Louis Blues. So we will cover all this stuff and more with you today on Tutel Nuanez. Colter, long weekend. I was gone 2 weeks. I was back 5 days. Now I had 3 more days off. I don't know, man. I just don't feel comfortable here right now. I feel more comfortable just out doing whatever I want all the time.
Well, you are more alive today than you have been in a week or so.
I am. I sound terrible still. I know. I'm aware of this.
But you can actually engage in functional conversation this week.
Yeah, well,
so far,
so good. Yeah, I feel like I'm thinking relatively clearly. It's always a matter of well, if I can't think of
articulating,
no, it's
speaking, conversating.
It's
talking.
A matter of relativity because the clarity for me is basically fog to everybody else. Okay. Colter, let's get right into this. Our Prep Extra segment is brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Hey, do you need cash? Farmers State Bank has 24-hour ATM machines at all branch locations, including Kalispell and Helena, perfect for your summer travels. That with the Farmers State Bank. We have some sound here from Craig Metler, which we'll get to in a moment. But the Sentinel boys, for the first time in the history of Sentinel High School, are the state champions in track and field. Huge congratulations to them, to the whole crew. Also, a phenomenal showing for the girls who participated in the stateside. Sentinel did not have enough girl qualifiers to really make a run probably at the state championship, but they finished third nonetheless. Bozeman, the winners of the state championship on the girls' side, and so a huge congratulations to the Hawks. But the Sentinel girls that were there were just out of this world outstanding. A couple state champions, individual state champions in their own rights on that side. But a great weekend up there. You went up and attended this, Colter, in Kalispell over the weekend. So tell us about the state championship.
Well, first of all, I think that you have asked me a good question often the last 2 years worth of us doing this show together, and that is, what makes track and field different? Why do you love it so much? And to me, you can, it's not easy, but you can certainly win a state football or a state basketball championship without performing your best. To win a state track championship, almost always you have to perform your best when your best is needed. Yeah. And that's why I think it's so cool. And you talk about the Missoula Sentinel boys. The last time that that high school won the state championship was in 1964, and that was when it was Missoula County Public High School. Missoula Sentinel became a thing in 1966. No boys state championships in track and field since then. So this is a historic moment in the history of the city. Missoula Big Sky won back-to-back state titles earlier this decade, and other than that, I cannot remember any Missoula teams winning the outright team state championships on the boys' side. Missoula Big Sky had a couple in a row when Lindsey Hall was there on the girls' side, and the Sentinel girls went back-to-back leading up to this year. But when you talk about what the Sentinel boys accomplished, it started with Elias DeWaters winning the long jump on Friday, and Jaden Foster had a little bit of a disappointment in the 100 meters. He came in with the top time in the state, and he did not win the 100 meters.
Yeah.
Chase Sheldon Allen from Flathead ran a PR of 10.88, and he won the state 100-meter title. He's only a junior, so that'll be a great battle next year between Jaden Foster and Chance Sheldon Allen. But then Jaden Foster is not deterred, bounces back, runs the best time in the state in the 200, 21.68 seconds, and then goes out and, even though he's only been running the 400 meters in meets for about a month, goes out and runs the best 400-meter time in the state this year as well. First guy to break 49 seconds. He ran 48.98, take home the 400-meter title. Now all of a sudden this junior who was kind of a no-name guy coming into this year is all of a sudden, I mean, he was a tenth of a second away from the almost unattainable triple-double, as you'd call it. I mean, he almost won the 100, the 200, and the 400. That is the holy grail as a sprinter, no matter if you're talking about Montana high school or college or Olympics. And so the fact that he scored 28 points, huge boost. Rylan Ort comes out Saturday morning, pops the biggest javelin throw of his entire life, and the sixth longest throw in the United States of America, 208 feet 8 inches, and boom, he outlasts Evan Todd from Kalispell Glacier, who was thrown in his hometown, not his home track, but thrown in his hometown, and Rylan Ort gets on top of the podium for the first time in his decorated high school career, and then the momentum just kept building, and Jace DeWalt coming up with a second place in the 300-meter hurdles, huge. The 4x100 team coming up with points and getting on the podium, huge. And then Elias DeWaters, he needs to do it again. And after setting a PR with a 22.5 long jump on Friday, he comes back and becomes the first young man in the state to go over 45 feet in the triple jump. So now he's a 2-time state champion. And that's the kind of stuff that just compounds upon itself. And you can feel the momentum build. And later on this week, we'll share our ESPN Roundtable for the week with Rylan Ort, Elias DeWaters, and Jace DeWalt. And these guys, they talked about just the process of this. These guys are some of the most decorated athletes in this decade at Sentinel High School. These guys are guys that played varsity in football from the time they were sophomores, competing on the varsity track team from when they were freshmen, and scoring points at the state meet since they were sophomores. And when these guys were freshmen, Sentinel scored 2 points at the state track meet. 2 as a team. Dead last.
Not enough to win.
Dead last. I mean, 2 points is basically getting one sixth-place finisher. That's it. And they had multiple kids win multiple state championships, multiple individual championships. And not only that, though, they all went out on top. You talk about all those 3 seniors that I just mentioned, they all had their best marks in their respective specialties in the last meet of the year. It's huge. It's enormous. And so to outlast Billings West, and it was a cool moment after the 4x400, or excuse me, the 4x400, which is the last relay of the day. Sentinel, the guys were pretty gassed at that point. They didn't actually finish that well in the long relay, but they didn't need it. They had already had the title secured. But Billings West won that relay, and that's what helped Billings West get into second. But Trevin Gradney, who's coming to play cornerback here for the University of Montana in football, and Elias DeWaters, who's from Sentinel, who's coming to play football at University of Montana, they had a cool kind of moment at the end where they both just kind of said to each other, "Hey, go Grizz." And they gave each other a big hug. Yeah. And, it bodes well for just the competitiveness of the kids that are coming to the University of Montana. And, it was a cool weekend, man. It's always fun to see greatness threatened. And I think that's the other thing that I really love about track is there's really no debate when stuff happens. I mean, Brad Graves from Huntley Project, he ran 14.14 in the 110 hurdles. That breaks the state record by almost a full tenth of a second. Put that in perspective, that's almost 0.2 of a second faster than Gabe Sulcer, who's one of the fastest kids in the history of the state of Montana. So for Brad Graves to throw that down as a Class B kid, my goodness. You talk about dominant, though. The Huntley Project boys in the Class B ranks, they rang up 10 first-place finishes. Class B field has dozens of teams. It's not
Right.
just 14 teams. So to score in the hundreds is really, really hard. And Huntley Project scored 132 points as a team. Wow. So they absolutely just tore the cover off this thing. So first of all, credit to the Sentinel boys for such a cohesive team effort and for all those guys going on top. But some of the other cool stuff that we saw, I mean, Casey Gunlickson almost set the Class B record in the 100 meters, kid from Big Timber, Montana. The almost 3 championships from Jaden Foster was spectacular. And then you go Brad Graves, all-class hurdles record. And that's not to mention just all the stuff that happened on the girls' side of things just in this Kalispell meet. You had Delaney Bond. She hit the board about 6 inches behind where you're supposed to take off. Still breaks the all-class long jump record by 5.5 inches. Lauren Hagen, I mean, what is more pressure than having to beat yourself for the all-class state record? And Lauren Hagen has gone over 41 feet in the triple jump this year for Missoula Sentinel. And she basically was competing against herself and her senior teammate, Ashley McElmurray, and she was still able to do it, still able to reset that record. And, it was a tremendous day to watch all the way around. But, I mean, to me, some of the great track and field performances I've seen, I mean, Delaney Bond breaking the all-class long jump record and then also sweeping the 100 meters and the 200 meters, spectacular. Watching Ashley, I mean, you mentioned the Sentinel girls. They only took 9 girls to state. They only had 4 girls score. 2 of them were Lauren Hagen and Ashley McElmurray.
Right.
Ashley McElmurray scored 46 points, I think, in this meet. I mean, there's a moment in time where the triple jump and the long hurdles were crossing over, and basically they had to let her come in a back gate to get her triple jump warm-ups in right after she's just won the long hurdles race. The amount of endurance this takes is just, it's beyond comprehension. And she, I actually ran into her parents on Sunday and talked to them for a little bit. And I told them, as a guy who's covered track and field in this state for a little over a decade, I put Ashley McElmurray on the Mount Rushmore of the all-decade team for Montana. I mean, it's Lindsey Hall, and it's the Aragon sisters, McKenna Morley, and it's Ashley McElmurray. And the fact that McElmurray has done it at such an elite level as both a horizontal jumper and a short and long hurdler, to me, makes her unique. I mean, her and Lindsey Hall are the only 2 that can really do that double dip, that combo. Because when you're running the 800, the 1600, and the 3200, the training is sort of cohesive. So it's not to discredit the Aragon sisters because they are spectacular. And McKenna Morley, like you have mentioned multiple times, I mean, she's a prodigy. She I don't remember her losing a race on Montana soil. Right. But and another thing is that Lauren Hagen is one of the great hurdlers and one of the great horizontal jumpers the state of Montana has ever seen. Obviously, she's the greatest triple jumper the state of Montana has ever seen. But if it wasn't for those 2 being teammates together, Ashley McElmurray probably would have won 4 state championships 2 consecutive years. Yeah. But still, her effort and the way that she was able to help boost Sentinel. I mean, you talk about being the 2-time defending state champs, but then you don't have Shelby Schwain because Shelby Schwain has been out all year. Because of this unfortunate knee injury that she suffered in volleyball. She missed all of basketball, all of track. Well, there's your nationally competitive 200-meter and high jumper not in the meet.
Right.
You talk about, you sent Emily Malone to North Carolina to throw javelin and Kylie Froelich to University of Montana to play basketball. And you're losing some big-time point scorers there. And for Sentinel to still get third, I mean, it was basically Ashley McElmurray and Lauren Hagen got third. Impressive. But I also was kind of blown away that that was the first AA title for the Bozeman girls since 2007. Bozeman has been an absolute powerhouse when it comes to cross country, and they've been competitive in the team competition. But I was surprised to hear that was their first overall state title since 2007. But all the way around, a day that was filled with fantastic results, records, and on a local level here in Missoula, really cool to see both the Sentinel teams compete and, just on a statewide and honestly a national level. Like I keep saying, man, there is national level athletes here in the state of Montana, and it's impressive. It's impressive to watch.
Well, while you were up there, you spoke with Craig Metler, who is the head coach of the Sentinel track and field team, and a guy we've had on now a couple of times, but you were able to catch up with him after the Sentinel boys sealed the deal and take home the first boys track and field state championship in the history of Sentinel as Sentinel. And also, with a great showing for a couple of senior girls that he obviously, as you'll hear, cares for very much. So here's a little bit of sound for you from Coach Craig Metler just after sealing up the state championship on the boys' side.
Here at Legends Stadium with Missoula Sentinel Track and Field head coach Craig Metler, Missoula Sentinel boys just sewed up their first state title since 1966. When I say that, that's got to be crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's 53 years, man. That's a long time to not put a banner up. And the kids, man, to think 4 years ago, Coulter, that when they were freshmen, these seniors, when they were freshmen 4 years ago, we scored 2 points.
2 points.
2 points, and here we are now. These guys have oriented the program in the right direction, and couldn't ask for much more. I mean, a bunch of great leaders, grinders. The boys have worked so hard in the summers, throughout the year in zero period, first period weights, whatever weights they're in, and football, basketball, and they haven't got or done in those sports, but they were able to sew up something pretty special here today.
This morning started off with a giant crowd watching one of the most anticipated events here, the javelin, and Ryland Ort goes 2:08.8, his first throw, wins the state championship. So on an individual level, awesome finish for him, but also, do you think that set the tone for the day to send in such a big throw right out the gates?
For sure. What really got us going was yesterday in the high jump, and then the boys were feeding off, and we talked about it on Thursday night. You got to feed off of each other. It's all about energy and feeding off of each other. So that happened, and then yes, today to start the second day, Ryland Ort going big, man. All the boys were juiced up to see that happen, and then you got Elias going 45, in the triple jump, and those two again, senior boys, man, senior leaders, and then you got Jaden Foster going out in the one, not as good of a start as he wanted, but then redeeming himself in that 200 with a school record hit in the 200. So I mean, dude, yeah, it's a pretty awesome feeling, man. I mean, I'm getting all these messages from all these former Sentinel Spartan guys who went to school in the 60s and 70s and congratulating us on the win. And man, great bunch of kids.
Jaden Foster specifically, he was so good in the 1 and the 2 all year, and then just peaked so late in the 400. How was he able to add that and become a state champion in the 400? And what did you think of just his ability to carry you guys in the sprints?
He's the smoothest runner around, man. I mean, he does not break at all. He maintains his technique and his form, and he is so loose. He was telling I think Neil Daly, he was telling Neil was talking about how I can be more loose in my running, and Jaden, quote unquote, says, just act like you're bored, man. Just be bored. And that's Jaden for you, man. I mean, a great kid, works hard, but that was part of our training though with him, is not running him too much in the 400 and letting the 100 and the 200 in the early meets, and then the 4x4 really be his training, and then slowly work him into the 400 throughout the season. And I think it paid off for him in terms of his health, because last year he wasn't as healthy, and we really made it an emphasis to keep him healthy this year.
On the girls' side, you guys two-time defending state team champions, only brought maybe 3 or 4 projected point scorers this week, but you guys still end up getting third. Ashley McElmurray, I think you said 36 points. So she's the state champion in both hurdles races, and she finishes runner-up in the long jump and the triple. Lauren Hagan gets the all-class triple jump record. So, I mean, those two specifically carried you guys, but you must be so proud of the effort on the girls' side, too.
Man, 5 girls to score us 75 points. That's incredible. I mean, the last few years when we were winning it, we had probably 13 to 15 girls scoring. I don't know off the top of my head, but for those girls to do what they did, hey, Ashley McElmurray, man, she is a franchise player, dude. I mean, we couldn't ask for a more selfless individual. Sorry about that. Yeah, just we're gonna miss her.
everybody's going to miss watching him. One of the great competitors to ever come through Montana. There was a cool moment at the end of the boys 4x400. Billings West won, and Elias DeWaters went up to Trevin Gradney and said, "Go Grizz." So as a former Grizz guy, you got to love that. I got to love the camaraderie and some of the toughness that these guys showed as they now parlay into becoming college football players.
Yeah. No, it's cool to see all these football track athletes out here. Those guys, it's a different day and age now, culture. I mean, I didn't know any of those guys that I was playing with or going to play against, even in high school who I was playing with or against. Now they all know each other through social media.
Right.
They see each other in person, and it's like they have known each other for years. So, I can't wait to see what Elias can do in the future. I think he has a very bright future for the Grizz. He's only going to continue to get better. He's a heck of a kid, heck of an athlete, and I'm looking forward to watching him here in Missoula for the next 4 or 5 years.
Third spring in a row, Craig Metler leaves the state AA track meet as the state champions. Congratulations, Coach.
Thanks, Coulter. Appreciate it, man.
There you go. Good stuff from Coach Metler there, man. You
franchise player.
Just get invested, man.
The thing is, though, I hung out with Craig a little bit on Sunday, and we were talking about this. You can say, hey, you just inherited some good athletes. You just happened to be the coach when you had a guy like Rylan Orton.
You're Luke Walton.
Who can throw the jab so far. Or, you got Ashley McElmurray, the daughter of, Grizz legend and Blaine McElmurray, and, a mom that was a standout track star at Montana. But you have to coach the kids to get them to the mental level to perform at their best when it matters the most. And I was telling Craig this. I grew up in Missoula. Sentinel specifically in football, but across the board, basically with the exception of basketball, was one of the laughing stocks of AA. We knew we were going to beat Sentinel in football 5 years before we stepped on the field because we knew they would just quit because that was the culture at Sentinel. And Sentinel always had great athletes. Always.
Yeah.
And, man for man, I mean, we had a couple better guys at Big Sky, but not really. But Sentinel had losing streaks in football of 24, followed by 30, followed by 24 games. There was all this publicity given to the Missoula Hellgate losing streak. Well, if you take away 3 wins, Sentinel had like 100-game losing streak. And that was culture. They didn't know how to win. They didn't want to win. And that's changed. And I think that the coaches down there, whether you're talking about, Craig Metler and his track staff, or Dane Oliver and his football staff, or the various basketball coaches that they've had, they've changed that. And I think that these kids that are seniors down there, they've changed that as well. And it takes a lot to be able to put it all together when it matters most. And Sentinel's able to do that. And it is a special moment though, because as much as credit as Craig Metler and his staff deserve, also, when you have special ones, you have to appreciate it. Yeah. And Ashley McElmurray is absolutely special. I mean, there's no mistake why this young lady is going to go to the University of Nebraska, and she's going to excel. And the next recruitment that's going to be fascinating to watch is going to be Lauren Hagen, because not only is Lauren Hagen a national level triple jumper who's getting offers from literally every school in the country, she's also likely probably the valedictorian at Sentinel next year. She's a 4.0 student. So if she wants to do the Stanford or the Notre Dame thing, that is for sure in the cards for her too. And so a lot of great athletes in Missoula right now, specifically at Sentinel. But a cool moment for Craig and his staff and all those athletes as well. A couple other kids that we have to just highlight quickly. You can't win these championships with just championships, with just individual state champs. You got to have guys score in other ways too. And Julius Mims from Billings Skyview, Trey Tittinger, he's out. He's the kid who has the all-class state record from Helena High. No one really knows the deal. Some people say discipline, some people say injury, some people say combination of both. He did not compete, but Julius Mims from Billings Skyview ran away with the high jump. He went 6'9.5". He flirted with 7 foot, but Zach Cruz and Neil Daly from Sentinel going 2-3. Well, now you basically steal 18 points right there. That gives you a gap.
Tell the people how the point system works.
So first place is worth 10, second 8, third 6, on down
till 2,
4, 2, 1. So you can score 1 point with a 6th place finish. And so to get that second and thirds, Brock Field taking second in the shot put, that's what puts you over the top.
Yeah.
On the girls' side, outside of the Missoula connections and everything like that, the other young lady we have to highlight, we mentioned her coming into this meet, is Odessa Zentz. She, as a true freshman, won the 400 and the 800 in flirting with college level times already, and she's a 9th grader. I mean, she won the 800 by almost 4 seconds. She's running 2:13 and change, which would probably place at the Big Sky meet, and she's in that mark. 2:08 is kind of like the magic mark for the girls 800, and she's already running 2:13, 2:14 as a 14-year-old. So she has an incredibly bright future in front of her too. And we talked about the upset in the girls 1600 meters where Tessa Traum from Bozeman outlegged Tiana Vladic from Billings Senior, but Vladic came back. She got second in the 800, and then she won the 3200. So she goes out and scores her team a full 28 points, and that was an impressive weekend on her part as well.
Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are continuing on in our Prep Extra segment, and we want to shift over for a minute here to softball as well and just highlight what happened on the softball diamond in the state. First of all, Great Falls getting their 3rd consecutive state AA championship. And it happened in a way that I think a lot of people hadn't anticipated. They're 19-1 the regular season. Well, guess what? They lost their first game in the state championship tournament, double elimination tournament. They lost 8-5 to Billings Senior. They have to go the consolation route and get back into it and, are walking with no net. Well, guess what? They run the gauntlet 3 straight, including beating Billings Senior, the team that they lost to in the championship game, 7-0, blanking the Bronx in the state championship. So Great Falls, congratulations to them, a 3rd consecutive state AA title there. Belgrade, they also won their 3rd consecutive state A championship, 23-0. Polson's a great softball team. Very, very good. They have a great program, and we're also hosting. That was the site of this year's Class A championships. 11-1 in 5 innings was the final score by Belgrade beating Polson, and just goes to show how good Belgrade is, just head and shoulders better than everybody else in the class.
And it's going to be fascinating to see because we've never seen a transition like what is going to happen next spring. Belgrade moves up to Class AA next year. They are going to enter the softball season as the 3-time defending Class A champs, but there's also going to be the 3-time defending AA champs in Great Falls trying to maintain their reign. So the addition of Belgrade to the AA level is going to be fascinating because now you're going to have basically a powerhouse joining a division that already has a powerhouse.
Right. Yeah.
And that's going to be really interesting to see. And it was kind of just like the dynasty softball weekend because you had 3 in a row for Great Falls High, 3 in a row for Belgrade. You mentioned how good Polson is. Huntley Project unseated Florence Carlton, which is an upset because Florence Carlton had won 11 of the previous 19 Class BC championships. Might as well just keep the trophy there forever at this point. But Huntley Project wins their first state softball title in school history. So that was an upset. And perhaps actually the most newsworthy thing of the entire weekend. Frenchtown High School does not get a top 3 trophy for the first time since 2003.
Yeah.
Top 3 for 15 straight years for Frenchtown. And they finished 4th still, but amazing that streak ended as well. So a lot of dominance going on in softball, but it'll be fascinating to watch next spring, just the Belgrade Panthers addition to Class AA.
All right, very good. That is our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by Farmers State Bank. Quick break. We got to come back. We got to talk about a couple of guys who passed away over the course of this weekend. Bill Buckner and Bart Starr, 2 all-timers in their respective sports. And we will discuss their legacies after this.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Florence Coffee strives to bring you the best quality in each and every drink, serving a variety of products with no artificial flavoring and no preservatives, like our delicious ice mochas to our all-natural creme brulee lattes. Stop by any of our Flowco locations throughout western Montana to see our lineup of all-natural flavors and go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
It happens. You're positive you put your bank card back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmer State Bank. Our app lets
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you
put
different?
your bank back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmer State Bank. Our app lets you control your debit card and securely turn it off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. MyCard is available only at Farmer State Bank. Ask about it at any of our 9 locations or learn more at farmersebank.com. Farmer State Bank, member FDIC.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
It happens. You're positive you put your bank card back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmer State Bank. Our app lets you control your debit card and securely turn it off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. MyCard is available only at Farmer State Bank. Ask about it at any of our 9 locations or learn more at farmersebank.com. Farmer State Bank, member FDIC.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. For the first time since the creation of Sentinel High School, the Spartan boys are state track and field champions, behind double wins by Elias DeWaters and Jaden Foster, along with an epic finale to his career by javelin thrower Ryland Ort. Missoula Sentinel claimed the Class AA state championship for the first time since 1964. Sentinel didn't open its doors until 1966.
Formerly known as Missoula County Public High School. Foster bounced back from a second-place finish in the 100 meters to win the 200 and the 400. Best times in the state both ways to score 28 of Sentinel's 108 points. DeWaters, a senior set to play football next season for the Grizz, notched personal bests in the triple jump and long jump for gold medals, and Ort popped a personal best throw of 208 feet 8 inches, 6th in the country to win the javelin state crown.
For the first time since 2007, Bozeman High won the Class AA state girls crown. Delaney Bond set the all-class record in the long jump, while also sweeping the 100 and 200 to pace the Hawks.
In softball, Great Falls High finished off their stellar season with a 3rd consecutive AA state championship. The Bison navigated a 3-game gauntlet after an early loss to Billings Senior, capped by a 7-0 win over the Bronx in the title game.
Belgrade finished a perfect 23-0 season by beating Polson 11-1 in 5 innings for their third consecutive Class A state championship. And Huntley Project finally broke through, beating Florence Carlton 8-5 for their first state BC title in school history.
Now show me who you are. When you let go, when you let go, say you love me in the moment. But if you
Bart Starr, Bill Buckner passed away this weekend. And those are two big names who it is worth taking a moment to discuss. It is Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Celia, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on Twitter at 1029 ESPN, at Skyline Sports MT, and at Gus Tutel. All over the Twitter sphere. Coulter, a couple of guys passing away. Bart Starr, one of the sort of founding legends of the NFL, obviously a lifelong Green Bay Packer. I had not remembered this. He was not just the quarterback; he was also the head coach of the Green Bay Packers for 8 seasons, like 1975 to 1982. Bart Starr, the head coach of the Packers, as well. But obviously, Bart Starr most remembered for being sort of the first great quarterback in the NFL, the MVP of Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II. It's amazing to think about how young the Super Bowl is and how exponentially it has grown. The NFL in general, yes, but the Super Bowl in particular. I mean, to the point where there wasn't even until recently a recording of the full game of Super Bowl I. Like that just became a deal that they were able to kind of piece together and play. But nonetheless, Bart Starr's sort of legend in the game stems from those victories and a three-time champion with the Green Bay Packers. But also is his impact was so personal to so many people because of the individual he was. Steve Mariucci, from Wisconsin, spent a lot of time in Michigan. He and Tom Izzo are great friends, Mooch and Izzo. And they have a golf tournament that Bart Starr would come up and play in Michigan for a fundraiser for a high school up there in the state of Michigan. And Mooch was on NFL Network talking about, as a kid, as an 8-10-year-old kid, going to Packers practice and seeing Bart Starr and it being, like God to a kid who is such an enamored fan of, of the sport and of this guy, and to have then befriended him later in life, not merely professionally worked with him. Mooch in absolute tears at the loss of this guy. And this is a guy, listen, Bart Starr, I think, suffered a stroke in 2014. Came all the way back from, was there for Brett Favre Day in Lambeau, and pouring down just sheets of rain, comes out in the cart, and one of the last sort of public appearances that he had at a time where he was struggling physically, struggling with his health, but yet was still sort of there in glowing with Brett Favre, and Brett Favre's care for Bart Starr also very, very evident. And so anyway, when you talk about the foundation of the league that has become what it has become, and especially the game, that being the Super Bowl, that has become what it has become, but also a guy who maintained just the most sort of gentlemanly interface with everyone, public, private, professional, his wife, Candy, for so many years, and so on. A tremendous loss, one that has been maybe coming for quite a while, actually, but yet now that it's here, a guy who people are taking a lot of time to think on and really rain praises down on him and his memory and his family at this time because of who he was through his whole life.
A charmed life, certainly. And it goes back before the Packers. I mean, people forget because he was such an iconic member of such an iconic franchise that he played for Bear Bryant at Alabama. And, he was the SEC Freshman of the Year. And when he was a sophomore, he was Alabama's starting quarterback, starting safety, and starting punter. Second in the nation in punting as a sophomore. All-American punter as well as an All-American quarterback. You'd be hard-pressed to find a guy that had that on his resume ever.
For as genial a guy as Bart Starr it was, and then I never had the chance to meet him certainly or be with him, but I mean when there is no exception to the praise that is heaped on a guy from absolutely every single person that ever knew him, you know that it's real, you know that it's genuine. For that guy to play for Bear Bryant and Vince Lombardi, I mean,
confluence of events like no other.
I mean, come on. How and you would think how tough a guy is this guy, how so forth and so on. But there are some stories about Bart Starr, the player, where you go, oh, okay, yeah, there's some fire inside of that belly as well, which is you have to be to play for those guys. But just tremendous. But right, to be a punter and a quarterback at Alabama, and then also to be the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers for Vince Lombardi, pretty remarkable and pretty hallowed territory to be trafficking in.
The number one way we define success as a quarterback is championships, and Bart Starr's the quarterback that created that definition.
The original, yeah.
Bart Starr would have 5 Super Bowl rings if the Super Bowl was started earlier. I mean, Bart Starr was a 5-time NFL champion. He just happened to only play in 2 Super Bowls.
Right.
And, it's so hard to compare quarterbacks particularly. I mean, you could extrapolate and say, man, Deacon Jones in the head slap, he could probably still get a sack in today's NFL.
Yeah.
Jack Lambert and Joe Green and some of these, Ray Nitschke, these guys could still stick a ball carrier in the NFL. But it's so hard to say, if you're really just talking about the playing of the position, all the guys now are probably better than all the guys then.
Right.
But that's not what it's about. You got to compare within the era. So ABC Sports had a great article today basically putting into perspective just how great Bart Starr was, especially how great Bart Starr was when it mattered most. Bart Starr, he still has the highest passer rating of any quarterback in NFL history during the postseason. That's lasted for more than 50 years. 104.8 was his postseason quarterback rating in his career. To put that in perspective, the league average at the time was 67.4. It used to be basically, now we want a 3 or 4 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah.
If you throw 20 touchdowns, 5 or less picks, 25 and 8, on down the line. Aaron Rodgers had a 40 plus and an under 10, 40 plus touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. That was considered outrageous. At this time in the NFL, 1-to-1 was the accepted rate. Go look at Joe Namath's career statistics. Joe Namath threw like 50 more picks than he did touchdowns. Right. Because when you're throwing it, you're taking a shot. That's it. You're only throwing it 15 times per game. If you go 8 for 15 for 120 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks, you're a Hall of Famer like Joe Namath, Right. And Bart Starr in postseason play, 8.2 yards per pass, which was 3 yards more than the average per pass at the time. 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It's astounding when you really put it in perspective. In 1966, he had 143.5 passer rating, which was almost perfect. That had never been seen in the NFL, not even close. Nowhere close to that had that been seen. And most importantly, though, Bart Starr, 9-1 in postseason games. And you have to remember, this is not when there was playoffs. You won your conference, you went to the Super Bowl. You won your conference, you played in the NFL title game. Bart Starr only lost 1 postseason game. And that's as a player, how I'll be remembered the most. But like you said, the fact that the outpouring in every avenue that outpourings can happen this day and age have been just so glowing, so loving. I think it's a testament just to the quality of life that Bart Starr lived.
Completely agree with you. And I think there's one other thing that can't be overstated here. For Bart Starr to play the way he played but be the person that he was in Wisconsin matters. The fact the Green Bay Packers have the team that they have now and the following that they have now because of Bart Starr and that group then. Because easily, how many teams have moved cities, places, and so forth over the years? Happens with relative frequency. Green Bay, a city of less than 100,000 people, has an 83,000-person stadium that has generations-long wait list to get onto, to get into, because of the foundation that was laid not just with the team, but also specifically with Bart Starr and what and who he was. And he and Vince Lombardi, the values that they exemplified in very different ways, I might add, and also then the success that they had, has transcended that place and that state to this very day. And you know, it may not be what it is. In fact, it certainly wouldn't be what it is. It may not be at all if not for Bart Starr and the absolutely granite foundation of that franchise in that place that it was. Because it wouldn't be the Packers if it was in any other town in any other state. Just wouldn't be. We also need to take a moment to recognize the passing of Bill Buckner. I must say this struck me as a surprise. Just 69 years old, did not realize that he had been dealing with dementia and was in poor health. Bill Buckner, and I'll tell you what, man, what a first of all, what a career! 22 seasons spanning. Are you ready? 4 decades. Played 1 game in 1969 and 22 games in 1990, and thus spanned the 60s, 70s, and 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s for Bill Buckner. But 22 years in Major League Baseball, was the 1980 NL batting champ, career .289 hitter, phenomenal baseball player, 2,715 hits in his career, and also perhaps the most iconic failure or error, at least in baseball history.
Especially because of when it happened and who it happened for.
Boston Red Sox, 86 World Series, ball goes between his legs.
Played against the other most hard luck franchise in the Mets.
Yeah. And, you know, man, it's interesting how, you know, people say, you know, say the losses hurt more than the wins feel good or stick with you more than the wins do. I know of some guys who, you know, to this day, you know, were injured or couldn't participate in certain college games, whether it's a national championship or a big bowl game, and it just eats them up. And they're hard-pressed to talk about that stuff even now. And I think I mentioned that because for this to be the most public and most remembered thing that you ever did in 22 years of all-star caliber baseball, what that hung around Bill Buckner's neck from 1986 on until the Red Sox won finally the World Series in 2000. It was 3. Was it 03 that they won it?
Mm-hmm.
It just can't be overstated. And the misery that he endured at the hand of, you know, the media in Boston at one hand and then the fans as well. Heaven's only, you know, sympathy here is that there wasn't the social media in the 80s and 90s that there is now, or heaven can only imagine what would have taken place. But, you know, we can sit here and laugh from a distance and go, oh, Buckner's, you know, error or whatever. But to actually be the guy who has to live that, have your family live that, and all of that, you know, all the things that you get from baseball, a nice life and the finances and all that kind of stuff, the reconciliation that happened and true emotional, you know, forgiveness and sort of a healing of that wound that just never went away for decades after that moment for him in Boston. And there was a formal re-welcoming of Bill Buckner back to Fenway Park in like 2006 or whatever it was. That's a heavy weight to bear. And it's unfair that is put on a guy for that long, and yet that's sort of what it is because he became, you know, he became the Bartman. Remember Bartman for the Chicago Cubs? But he was the guy on the field, the player, and not just merely a fan who would, you know, had to go, you know, MIA for a while in Chicago. So I don't know. It's a bizarre reality that a guy who was this good for this long is remembered in this way, and good that it ultimately was able to be sort of, I think, gotten past. And yet there's a lot of life. I mean, a significant portion of life that he lived that was in the shadow of that one moment.
And it's honestly, it's sad how this kind of stuff can override and overshadow great careers. I mean, Bill Buckner hit 289 for his career. He had almost 3,000 hits, 2,800 something hits. And, we talked about Chris Webber on the show the other day. And Chris Webber, probably the defining memory of Chris Webber's career.
Calling a timeout
he didn't have.
Yeah.
Mitch Williams giving up the home run to Joe Carter.
Right.
And Mitch Williams is the wild thing. I mean, Mitch Williams is one of the great closers in the history of baseball.
Yeah, one of the original.
But the iconic moment is the one where he's on the other side. There's a great documentary series on Netflix called Losers. It's all about people that achieved basically the highest level in their sport that they could, but then are somehow remembered as a loser. Like there's this guy, he was a heavyweight boxer. This guy was a multiple-time Golden Glove winner. He won a gold medal, and his losses in either number one contender fights or championship fights were to Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, and Riddick Bowe. 4 of the great modern heavyweights ever. And this guy beat everybody else. He was basically the 5th best heavyweight from 1985 to 1995.
Get him out of here.
His career is just marked as like this unfulfilled prodigy.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is our measure of greatness? And sometimes when you have the potential and you don't fulfill it, it kills you. But Bill Buckner had a better career than anybody wants to remember because they remember him for one specific moment. And you have to feel terrible for a guy. But hopefully now, if there is any silver lining to somebody passing away at a young age from, probably unfortunate circumstances, hopefully it's that people can put his career into perspective and remember that he was an all-star. He did win a batting title. He does have 2,700 plus hits. He was a nearly career 300 hitter. And hopefully they can remember him in a good light.
Well, the thing that's crazy is if Boston hadn't, they've now won 3, right? Now they're like the franchise of baseball. But if they had not won yet still a championship.
Right.
I mean, the reaction in Boston to this would be just downright ugly as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And that's the thing that I think is crazy because fans collectively are insane. They have no tie and foundation rooted in reality, And I mean, maybe that's part of what being a fan is, being fandemonium and all that. But that I'm very happy. It's a good thing that Boston won for no other reason than this for him, for Bill Buckner. All right, quick break. Hey, listen, we got some stuff for you. Some golf stuff, some football stuff. You want to know about this? Because you are going to want to win this that we got for you. We're going to tell you all about some stuff we got coming up for you in the forthcoming days and months next.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
What goes perfectly with a crisp and delicious salad? Energy drinks, of course. At Town Pump, you can grab your Bang and Rain 16-ounce energy drinks, 2 for $4. And don't forget your greens with a chef salad in the deli, only $4.49. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Hey folks, the best season of the year is upon us. That's right, it's tax return season, and there's one place to have the most fun and make that refund check stretch further than anywhere else, Selway Armory. Selway Armory has the largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories of anywhere around, and they have the expertise to go with it. It's not everywhere that you can shop local and save money, but Selway Armory will meet or beat any box store price, and your money stays in Montana. It's tax return time, so get more bang for your buck at Selway Armory. Visit online at selwayarmory.com. SportsGuide.com.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from Tutel Nuanez 1029 ESPN Missoula here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom got me a great deal on an automatic car starter this winter. Now it's summer. What sort of stuff you guys got going on down there, Tom?
Well, Colter, coming into the summertime, we're picking up on the window tinting front. So if you need your windows tinted, give us a call. We'll get you scheduled up. Boats and ATVs are starting to come in full swing, and we're also starting to see the hot rods come out to play. Anything audio related, let us know. We'll get you taken care of.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris online at kurtzpolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Here we go. Off and running. It's Tutel Nuanez. Hi, how are you? Good?
I almost had it fixed.
No, it's fine, Tommy. Nobody knows the number of balls you've been juggling back there.
Just one.
To make it go. Just one.
Just one.
One significant one. Hey, good to be with you. We got some stuff to give away. We're going to tell you about it. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Find us on the web, 1029ESPN.com, Facebook/ESPN Missoula, and SkylineSportsMT.com for best sports journalism in the big sky, baby. Woo! Colter, you and I, we like to golf. You and I, we like football. We said, well, you know what? The only way to make it better is to give it to the people, so that's what we're here to do. Let's talk about this a little bit. Later this week, are we starting on Thursday? Is that what we've decided? Starting on Thursday.
Thursday to Thursday.
We have a new golf giveaway for you to the Sacagawea Hotel, an overnight and what? 36 holes?
Exactly.
I mean, come on. The marathon for the people. Tell them about it.
So what you're going to get is a stay and play. So you're going to get to play at the Headwaters Golf Course, and you're going to get to play 2 rounds of golf. And 18 holes one day, stay. 18 holes the next day. And you also get to stay at one of the great hotels in all of Montana,
yes.
The Sacagawea Inn. So Headwaters Golf Course, just right outside Three Forks. So this contest, very similar to our Skin Soul Mother's Day contest. All you need to do is each day, starting on Thursday, so we'll do 5 days worth, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Whoever's the first caller in is going to get a chance to come on air with us.
Yes.
And tell us a good memory you have with your father.
Ooh, good.
Tell us your old man. If it's a golf story, great. If it's not, that's fine too. Maybe how your dad got you into sports. Maybe how you share sports with your dad, or it doesn't even have to be sports. What your dad means to you, that's all. And we'll take the first call.
Maybe how you forgot to put the bolts properly on your dad's truck when you changed his tire and you took it for a drive and the front right wheel rolled off and it didn't go all that well for you after that. Maybe that's the story.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. And then out of those 5 people that come on the radio, we will select our favorite, and then we will be hooking you up with a little trip over to Montana's favorite small town and one of the great venues and hotels you can find anywhere in the Montana, and you get golf.
I mean, that's fantastic. That actually is sweet. You go out there, you get a round of golf, then you know that you're just looking forward to a night in a great hotel, and then you get up and it's still not over. You got to go golfing again. Come on, this is great. Okay, that's a great giveaway. We'll start that again on Thursday. We'll be taking your calls for that, so make sure that you're tuned in the rest of this week and then next week as well. Also, and now I don't know how many details you have or how many details you want to give the people, but basically, we've got tickets for you to Grizz football versus Oregon Ducks.
Yep. So this is our great summer promotion. We're going to be sending a whole collection of Grizz fans from Missoula to Eugene, Oregon, to watch the Oregon Ducks. So you're going to get tickets to the game. You're going to get access to a VIP tailgate.
Probably going to watch the Grizz, right?
Totally. You're going to go watch the Grizz.
Happen to see the Ducks.
Happen to see the Ducks. But you're going to go to one of the great venues in college football. We got your tickets to the game. We got you entrance to a VIP tailgate hosted by Widmer Brothers. We'll also be doing a remote broadcast from Eugene, so you can come in and say hi to us as well. But all you need to know is we'll give you the list of all the places starting next week where we're going to have.
We're going to the game?
We are.
Oh, that's great.
We are going to.
Tell Tina.
We're going to have registration boxes for tickets.
Yeah.
All around Missoula. We'll give you the places starting next week, but you can go in, you can put your name in the box, and then throughout the summer, we're going to have a series of 12 remote broadcasts in late June through late August. And if you register for the tickets, you're entered. And then you have to come to our remote broadcast to win. And we'll give away tickets at each of the places, and we'll get you all hooked up.
So you can follow us around all summer long.
Follow us around. Go to various establishments in the place. I can already tell you right now we have confirmations from both Paradise Falls and the Iron Horse. So stay tuned for the rest of the list as we continue to roll this thing out. But we'll have remote broadcasts at 12 local establishments throughout the city of Missoula. This promotion is presented by Widmer Brothers Brewing Company out of Portland, Oregon. Widmer Brothers Hefeweizen is going to be on tap at all the participating bars, so you can try that. One of the original craft beers, the truest form of an American-style hef. And it'll be a lot of fun. You're gonna have a lot of opportunity to hang out with Tutel and Nuanez throughout the summer and drink great beer at some of the great watering holes throughout the city of Missoula.
I mean, I leave for 2 weeks. I go out of the country for two weeks. I come back, and you've got my entire life scheduled out in front of me.
That's right.
Okay. Very good. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2. Can you believe it? We've gotten this far. We haven't even talked about the NBA. The Toronto Raptors are in the NBA Finals. Who saw this coming? Not me. Not me. Very disappointed about this. Discuss whether this matchup is going to be a good one next.
The Montana Club invites you to stop in for Club Cocktail Hour. Every day from 3 to 6, sip on $5 martinis. Get $1 off all wine and beer, including cool Montana micros. Enjoy $3 off all mouth-watering appetizers, or swing by Friday for Montini Night and perfectly mixed $5 top shelf martinis from 3 to close. It's time to relax at the Montana Club. Real Montana, real food on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Good news! Missoulians can finally move into what we love best, being outside. Garden City Paint and Glass can help you get a head start on all those outside home improvement projects. Now is also a great time to start getting a jump on cracked windows and broken screens. Enjoy up to 25% off select products. And be sure to watch for PPG rebates to help the job along. Look good, stay comfortable, and keep energy costs down at Garden City Paint and Glass. 3217 Brooks or 549-0608.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of The Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents cases end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at The Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. For the first time since the creation of Sentinel High School, the Spartan boys are state track and field champions behind double wins by Elias DeWaters and Jaden Foster, along with an epic finale to his career by javelin thrower Rylan Ort. Missoula Sentinel claimed the Class AA state championship for the first time since 1964. Sentinel opened its doors in 1966.
Foster, a junior, bounced back from a second-place finish in the 100 meters to win the 200 and the 400 on the way to scoring 28 of Sentinel's 108 points. DeWaters, a senior who's set to play football next season for the Grizz, notched personal bests in the triple and long jumps for gold medals. And Ort, a Montana State football commit, popped a personal best throw of 208 feet 8 inches, sixth in the nation, to win the javelin crown.
For the first time since 2007, Bozeman High won the girls' Class AA state title. Delaney Bond set the all-class record in the long jump while also sweeping the 100 and 200 to pace the Hawks.
In state softball, Great Falls High finished off their stellar season with a third consecutive Class AA state championship. The Bison navigated a 3-game gauntlet after an early loss to Billings Senior, capped by a 7-0 win over the Bronx in the title game.
And finally, Belgrade finished a perfect 23-0 season by beating Polson 11-1 in 5 innings for their third consecutive Class A state softball championship. And Huntley Project, they beat Florence Carlson 8-5 to win their first BC title in school history. From Game 1, NBA Finals. And it will be the Toronto Raptors and the Milwaukee... the Toronto Raptors. How did that happen? You go down 2-0 and then reel off 4 straight to a team that hadn't even lost 3 in a row through the entire 82-game regular season. Stunning. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Great to be with you. We are preempted on SWX today, but we still are available on YouTube. Tutel Nuanez YouTube channel. I suggest you get in there. I look great. Check me out. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway, Missoula Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can also, if you missed anything in the first hour, relive it. Relive every scintillating second on the podcast. The Tutel Nuanez podcast is available on the TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, and Spotify. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotels. Coulter, I am just having a hard time believing what I watched happen in the Eastern Conference Finals with 4 straight wins by the Toronto Raptors, who I thought one of the significant edges that Milwaukee had in this series was in coaching. And after this series, not only was it not even, it was the other direction. Nick Nurse straight out coached Mike Budenholzer in this series. And I'm stunned by that because I thought Nick Nurse was, as coaches go, a liability. You know, when you talk about the elites of the elites that are a head coach in the NBA, I got Nick Nurse pretty far down the totem pole. He took a pretty big step up to me in this series, and the way that the Toronto Raptors defended the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Bucks just had no answer for, and specifically Giannis, who just got enveloped every time he took a step inside the three-point line, and yet was really unable to make plays for other guys. And how much of that is coaching? How much of that is just the development of a young superstar that needs to continue to happen? I'm not sure. This did feel to me like Kawhi Leonard is a guy who's been there before, who's done it before, who knows what it means to do it and do it in this moment. And even though it's a new place and a new city, he's been down this road. Antetokounmpo has never been down this road. And often young players have lessons to learn, difficult ones to learn before they break through into their time and come into their own in this stuff. And this happened to LeBron James, and it has happened now to Giannis. Maybe it also happened to Joel Embiid. The ironic thing about this is, I mean, you're a 4-bounce three-pointer away from maybe Toronto not even being in this series. And yet now they're going to the NBA Finals for the first time, and good for them. I mean, for the city of Toronto, this is gargantuan. You know, this is a huge, huge deal in the city of Toronto and really for the country of Canada. And so that's good. That's a fun story. I'm still amazed at how this went down, and 4 straight wins for the Toronto Raptors against that team. I did not think that was going to happen, and yet there we are. And the Bucks, up 15 late in the third quarter, all of a sudden go on one of their patented can't buy a bucket streaks. I think it was like a 26-3 run or something like this that the Raptors went on, and a lot of that is because the Raptors just straight locked up the Milwaukee Bucks, and they could not find a way out of it.
The only 3 players that didn't have to go through it, who were just finals MVPs as young players, Magic Johnson, Tim Duncan, Kawhi Leonard. Everybody else has had to go through it. I mean, all the guys that have won the Bill Russell Award as the finals MVP. You're talking about Michael Jordan won 6 of them. He didn't win his first one until his 8th year in the league.
Yeah, he didn't lose in the finals, but it took him a long time to get to the finals.
Right, he couldn't even get out of the East because he couldn't beat the Celtics, couldn't beat the Pistons.
Yep.
You know, Hakeem Olajuwon in the league for 10 years before he was ever a finals MVP. Shaquille O'Neal in the league for 8 years before he's ever a finals MVP. You know, Dwayne Wade won one pretty early in his career, 3rd or 4th year. But Paul Pierce, I mean, in the league forever before he was a finals MVP. Kobe Bryant in the league for 14 years before he was ever a finals MVP. LeBron James in the league for 10 before he was ever a finals MVP. Kevin Durant, 10. So it's a learning curve for the young guys for sure to get to the finals and then to be the top player at that level. But I think that this has been a resounding and startling reaffirmation for just how good Kawhi Leonard is. There's no doubt to me when you consider everything that's happened in the league this year, from LeBron James' groin injury to the dysfunctionality of the Lakers to the dysfunctionality of the Warriors to Kevin Durant's recent injury to the dysfunction of the 76ers to now Toronto winning 3 straight games and representing the Eastern Conference. How do you say that Kawhi Leonard's not the best player in the world right now?
Well, I can say that he's not the best player in the world right now.
But who's better?
Steph, maybe KD. I mean,
it's been great that
if you're going to talk about the injury as like when you say right now, well, it can't be Kevin Durant because he can't play. But I mean, that's not. Here's the thing. Here's what I don't like. I feel like the best player in the world moniker has shifted to about 5 different guys in the span of 6 months, which I think is crazy.
That's the world we live in, though, right?
No. I mean, I think that's crazy. You're not just the best because you had a great 4-game stretch and you got your team to the finals. However, Kawhi Leonard has reminded us how good he's been all along and is doing it at the time when it is the most important. If he's the best now, he's been the best all year.
The only argument I'd listen to is Steph Curry, because I think that LeBron James, while I advocate for LeBron all the way, and I think LeBron James is still the most dominant player in the NBA, and I think when LeBron James is healthy next year, I think LeBron James is going to remind us in ferocious fashion just how good he is. But he comes with a lot of baggage. And if you watch LeBron this year, LeBron is so talented that LeBron figured out how to average 28, 8, and 8 without running past the three-point line. He played three-point line to three-point line, went in the lane every once in a while when he felt a little spry, but he wasn't playing a lot of defense. Kevin Durant and the dysfunctionality that comes with him, just how toxic he has become, a hard pass for me. And I think that Steph Curry has reminded everybody how good he is too. But just in terms of a two-way player who you can rely on at all times, especially the offensive zone that Kawhi Leonard has reached at this moment, I mean, he's a truly unstoppable offensive player. And then you put in the fact that he's the best defensive player in the league, startling.
That's the thing. Now, I would not say he's the best defensive player in the league. I'd say he's the second best defensive player.
Behind?
Giannis.
Right, but he just D'd up Giannis, and Giannis couldn't D up him. The only reason I'm putting Kawhi Leonard above Giannis right now is because Kawhi Leonard just straight up beat Giannis.
Kawhi is I have Kawhi as better than Giannis as a player. I still got Giannis as a better defender. But in any case, you're splitting hairs.
Totally.
Because they are the two best. The thing to me that's amazing, and you hit the nail right on the head. Kawhi Leonard forever has been known as the best defensive player in the NBA, and has been, the defensive player of the year. And what he does, his lockdown defensively was unbelievable. And his offensive game was good but dependent when he was in San Antonio. And maybe it wasn't even that. Maybe it's just he had when you're playing with Parker and with Tim Duncan and with Manu Ginobili and so forth, you're not just going to have, the looks that you have when you're in Toronto now. But what he has developed in his offensive game has now surpassed, at least in people's minds, because this is the obvious thing that you watch, his defensive game. When you pair his defensive game with with what he does offensively, I mean, he's a better version of Paul George. I mean, it's just incredible how good he is offensively right now. It's true. I mean, he feels unstoppable. I mean, his ability to shoot the three ball, even to shoot step back threes, his mid range game, which he can knock down, and then always getting to the hoop. I mean, what was the dagger in game 6? It was him flying through the lane and throwing down on Giannis, by the way, although Giannis was kind of coming off his angle a little bit. That dunk was signed, sealed, and delivered. The Toronto Raptors are going to the finals. He's unbelievable right now.
In 18 playoff games, Kawhi Leonard's playing 38 minutes per game, shooting 51% from the field, 39.8% from beyond the arc, averaging 31.2 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 1.6 steals per game.
One of the great postseason runs that any guy has ever been on.
And the biggest argument I could say, and all I'm saying is the right now, and we always fall victim to being prisoner of the moment. I am inviting us to be the prisoner of the moment right now because I'm talking about this exact day.
But here's the thing:
the Toronto Raptors are going to the NBA Finals.
I don't think
about that.
I mean, it's amazing. I just don't think
who thought
having the conversation about who's the best player in the world today makes any sense. I don't.
I mean, it's fun. Here we are doing it. But all I'm saying is, I mean, this is unprecedented territory. Like it, love it, hate it, whatever. The Toronto Raptors fired the NBA Coach of the Year, and traded their best player, and got better. And I understand that Kawhi Leonard is significantly better than DeMar DeRozan, so it's not as if they just swapped out like pieces.
Sure,
but I can't recall a time when a team fired the Coach of the Year in the league and traded their best player and had it work out so swiftly. It's happened where you move some pieces around, you get rid of a malcontent, and then a couple years later, you find what you were looking for. But to have it happen, to be the team that straight up was haunted by LeBron James, and make no mistake, LeBron James leaving the Eastern Conference has a huge impact on this entire story.
Everybody.
This entire narrative. Would we be talking about Giannis as this emerging star? Would we be talking about what do the Sixers do next? Would we be talking about the Raptors going to the finals? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about any of that stuff. But I for Dwayne Casey to be out, DeMar DeRozan to be traded, and for the other thing that I think is completely underrated about this story is how the Raptors are absolutely getting the last laugh. Kawhi Leonard, heavily scrutinized for the way his situation in San Antonio transpired. Everybody's second-guessing him. He's got his own doctors. He's not listening to the team doctors. The team doctors are saying he should play. It's very much like the Derrick Rose situation where Derrick Rose made that comment to the media when he said, I'm not sure where I'm at with my knee, but I want to be able to walk in 20 years. So I'm going to slow play this thing. And everybody just ate him alive. And Kawhi Leonard, he didn't have a knee injury. It was just a quad injury. I say just, it was obviously detrimental to him. But he endured the entire year of scrutiny where he barely played at all. He gets traded by the otherwise most stable franchise in the entire NBA. And then Toronto basically puts him on a stringent regular season schedule. He will not play back-to-backs. He will not play 3 in a row, period. And I think everybody was wondering, okay, what do we have in the Raptors? And is Kawhi Leonard fully back? Well, he plays 60 out of 82 regular season games. Then when the playoffs come, they unleash him, and he's fresh, and boom, they're in the finals. And I just think it's, in terms of front office management and the way that they were able to make the moves that they made at the right time, it's not just Kawhi Leonard. You talk about Nick Nurse. I mean, who is Nick Nurse? Who even knew who this guy was until a month and a half ago? No one. I couldn't tell you a single thing. I can't tell you where he came from, what his coaching background is. Nothing. This isn't like firing, David Blatt and replacing him with Mike Brown or Tyronn Lue. This is firing Dwayne Casey, the NBA coach of the year, replacing him with somebody nobody has ever heard of.
Totally.
But then also, you make deadline deals to get Marc Gasol, who becomes the linchpin of your team defensively. You maintain strong faith in Kyle Lowry, who's one of the most polarizing stars in the entire league. You get a reemergence of Serge Ibaka. You have Pascal Siakam be perhaps the most improved player in the league. And so all these different factors contribute into then now we got a team from Canada in the NBA Finals.
Well, and Masai Ujiri should get a ton of credit and is getting a ton of credit after getting a ton of criticism for those very moves that you talked about. He's not all the way. Well, actually, I think he is all the way out of the woods, because here's the backdrop that will be on this Raptors team until it isn't, and that is what's Kawhi going to do. But here's the thing: at this point, yeah, it will matter obviously to the Raptors greatly if he leaves, but it will never come back to haunt. The issue wasn't trading DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard. It was trading DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, thinking that you could only have him for one season. You trade your franchise guy, the guy who's been your best player for 5 years, for a guy who is better but is walking out that door. So why would you do it? Well, this is why you did it. Because now the Raptors are in the finals for the first time in the history of the organization, and so no matter what happens now from now on, Ujiri is exonerated for that choice, because he has gotten this team now with Kawhi Leonard and Nick Nurse to a place that they could never get before with DeMar DeRozan. Never get there before. And DeMar DeRozan, I think he's probably, I don't know what he's thinking right now. He's probably sitting there going, well, you know what? If LeBron James wasn't there when I was playing there, we would have been, well, you know what? Didn't happen. And so this result, this end game to get to the NBA Finals for this Raptors team, is total exoneration for all those moves that were made. And if Kawhi Leonard then stays, it's not merely icing on the cake, it's a new cake. But this cake right now is everything that it could have possibly been. And no matter, even if Kawhi Leonard leaves, the right decision was made, because you are trying to get somewhere you've never been before. You needed the guy to get you there, and he got you there. So that's tremendous, man. And it's going to sting when Kawhi leaves, but
you think it's a win?
It's 100% a win.
No, I'm saying a win. You're saying when Kawhi Leonard leaves.
I think it's a win. I mean, do I think that Kawhi Leonard is going to finish his career as a Toronto Raptor? No. Do I think that it's a guarantee he leaves now? Not necessarily. But I don't think Kawhi's. I don't think that he's going to stick around in Toronto. I don't think so. That's just my gut. But as we talked about before, who can say when you're talking about a guy who doesn't say anything? So, I had no idea. No idea. So, people assume Kawhi Leonard didn't want to go to Toronto in the first place. I think we have established that, right?
Right.
So if we're starting there, the sign is that he's going to leave when he's able to,
right,
which is now.
Right.
nothing's changed about that except for the fact that they're winning. Well, them winning may have a softening effect. The whole, Kawhi dines free and Drake on the sidelines, and maybe they're boys now, and maybe he loves the city and the diversity of it and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he fell in love with a place he thought he was going to hate. Or maybe they won and he goes, yeah, okay, I did the thing that I came here to do. See you later. I got no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It would be absolutely precedent-setting if Kawhi Leonard was to lead the Toronto Raptors to the NBA championship and leave. It already will be precedent-setting if he leaves them to the Eastern Conference Finals and Eastern Conference title and leaves. Precedent-setting, 100%.
LeBron James took the Cleveland Cavaliers to many straight finals.
Yeah, but it's not just a one-and-done like this. This would be crazy to switch conferences, win the conference title. On the way, I mean, there's a great meme on the internet. Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo both in tears in the hallway next to each other.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard did this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good run. I totally put a bunch of stock into no LeBron James. But to me, it doesn't discount much how great this run has been.
Totally. It's been one of the all-time runs.
Great trivia question for you.
Okay.
Where did Masai Ujiri,
yes,
where did he play his college basketball?
Montana State.
Montana State Billings.
Oh, MSUB.
MSUB. Bismarck State and then MSUB.
Yeah, I knew you had interesting Montana tie. Nigerian, born in Nigeria.
Yep, he's Nigerian, and he's the only African-American to ever win the NBA's Executive of the Year. He actually won that with Toronto. People forget that that Toronto team won 58 games, got the 3 seed. George Karl was the coach of the year, and then they got upset by Stephen Curry, pre-Steve Kerr, and then that Warriors team lost in the next round. Mark Jackson out, Steve Kerr in. Rest is history.
Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to talk about the NHL a little bit. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I do want to preview this Golden State-Toronto series. Let's talk. We've talked about the history. Let's talk about the future next.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce 2 of our best tires ever just in time for summer. There's our exclusive open range AT that we believe is our quietest, smoothest, and best all-season traction tire ever, or the Reputation, our exclusive high-mileage premium passenger tire. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 open range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Happy Tuesday to you. Here's some sports news. For the first time since the creation of Sentinel High School, the Spartan boys are state track and field champions. behind double wins from Elias DeWater and Jaden Foster in an epic finale to his career by javelin thrower Rylan Ort. Missoula Sentinel claimed the Class AA state championship for the first time since 1964. Sentinel wasn't Sentinel itself until 1966.
Foster bounced back from a second-place finish in the 100 meters to win the 200 and 400 on the way to scoring 28 of Sentinel's 108 points individually. DeWater is a senior set to play football next season for the Grizz, notched a personal best in the triple jump and the long jump, turned gold medals, and Ort popped a personal best throw of 208 feet 8 inches, sixth in the country this spring, to win the javelin state crown.
On the girls' side, for the first time since 2007, Bozeman High won the Class AA state crown. Delaney Bond set the all-class record in the long jump while also sweeping the 100 and 200 meter races to pace the Hawk.
In softball, Great Falls High finished off their stellar season with a third consecutive Class AA state championship. The Bison navigated a 3-game gauntlet after an early loss to Billings Senior, capped by a 7-0 win over the Bronx in the title game.
And in Class A, Belgrade finished their perfect 23-0 season by beating Polson 11-1 in 5 innings for their third straight state championship, while Huntley Project beat Florence Carlton 8-5 for their first BC state title in school history. And we got the Warriors. Golden State for the 5th time in 5 years. The Raptors for the first time ever. Thursday night right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio. All the things in the NBA. Tommy's playing with the volume, so things must be going better in the back. How you doing there, Tommy?
What's that? Sorry, I was focusing on something else.
Tell no honest.
What's going on here?
No, man, I was just making sure you're good.
I think so.
Good.
Yeah, just kind of monkeying around with this software here.
Yeah. Playing with the volume. It's good.
Well, yeah, trying to get it back for you.
Yeah, it's good.
We'll see.
I appreciate it, man.
Is it working?
I think so.
Okay. I'll get out of the way. Peace.
Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online, kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us online, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen live no matter where you are, no matter when you are. The stream, always there, thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. If you'd like to call, we'll go right ahead. 329-1899, the phone number. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangish Brothers RV phone line. This series is opening in Toronto. For that reason, I got the Warriors in 6. If it was opening in Golden State, I would have the Warriors in 5. I still might have the Warriors in 5, but I say they maybe don't win it in Toronto, although I don't know that it matters all that much. I got the Warriors winning this series and winning it fairly handily. And that is with or without Kevin Durant. By the way, Kevin Durant officially out for Game 1. However, he is traveling to Toronto for Games 1 and 2 with the Golden State Warriors. His status for Game 2, obviously, as of yet, unknown.
Yeah, I honestly try to analyze everything that we talk about on this show objectively, with no bias. And I realized about midway through the Toronto series with Philadelphia, they just have a bias against the Raptors because they're just the Toronto Raptors. And, you know, they have kind of a cartoonish mascot. They've only been in the league since 1996. They're the only non-American team in the league, and all those things, that's on me.
But it's going to be equal out because you have a bias against the Golden State Warriors, who you've been claiming since the regular season that they're going to fall apart.
Yeah, right. And then what happened?
They're there again after a sweep in the West
because their cancer is on the sideline.
It's just
I would
false.
honestly, if Kevin Durant comes back in this series, I pick Toronto to win the series.
First of all, if Kevin Durant comes back, the Warriors are going to win the series. If he doesn't come back, the Warriors are going to win the series.
I likely agree with that, but it doesn't make my assessment wrong. The Warriors are better without Kevin Durant.
They aren't better. They are not better. I can't. I just don't understand how it went from a disagreement at some point in the regular season with him and Draymond Green, which what's more shocking than somebody not getting along with Draymond Green for a period of time to all of a sudden now he's a cancer on this team.
Dude.
And they can't function with him.
He spends his free time publicly acknowledging criticism on social media. No other athlete does that. You have to know your platform. You can't attack reporters on Twitter because you get your sensitive feelings hurt.
CJ McCollum won at Skip Bayless.
He's got thin skin. He does nothing but just completely cry during games. He's demonstrative. By all accounts, he's not popular with his teammates or his opponents. I mean, there's no denying that Kevin Durant is one of, if not the greatest individual scorer in the history of the NBA.
Wrong.
He is one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA.
Who is at the peak of his powers.
No doubt.
Right now.
He is back-to-back Finals MVP. But that does not... The Warriors are going to win this series either way. I agree with you. I will concede that. I will concede that. It will be much more pleasant to watch, much more vindicating, and much better for their long-term health as a franchise if they do it without Kevin Durant than with Kevin Durant. And if the Golden State Warriors win this series without Kevin Durant, they're going to win it again next year without Kevin Durant. If they win it this year with Kevin Durant and Kevin Durant stays, everything that I've been prophesizing is going to be that much closer to becoming true. This will fall apart. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Well,
it's lasted longer than I thought.
What will fall apart?
The Golden State Warriors.
I mean,
nothing lasts forever. It can't.
Yeah, of course not. So, yes, they're not going to win the 2,250 NBA Finals. That much I agree with.
Right, but you got four dudes who are all in their prime right now.
Yeah.
And it's not going to last. It's going to go awry.
First of all, it's already lasted.
I understand that. Do you understand my premise?
No. No, I don't. I really don't. Tell me again.
I just don't get why you do. What about Kevin Durant do you like? What about him do you think makes the Warriors better? Besides his ball hog nature, his ability to ISO score. He ruins what they do best. He's so good that it doesn't hurt him as bad as other guys doing that would.
That's the point, is that you are so right about this stuff so often. And when you say, look, just because you add a guy who's a better player doesn't mean your team is better, is absolutely true. Except for, let's put it like this. If Kevin Durant was on a different team, he would make another team much better than what he makes the Warriors. Okay?
Absolutely.
We totally agree about that.
Absolutely. And that's why it's the best thing for the NBA if he's just out.
No. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'm not saying no to that.
Get Kevin Durant in a big market where he can be the sole superstar of his team, and that's better for everybody involved. It's better for the Warriors, and it's better for the league.
But here's all I'm saying. Kevin Durant is so good that it does not matter what team he's on. He is going to make that team better. The fact
besides the one he's on.
No,
that's the ironic part.
No, not besides the one he's on, including the one that he's on. Just because he makes the Warriors incrementally better as opposed to significantly better, which he could at almost any other team, does not disparage the fact that he does make them better. That there are things that they can do when he is on the floor that they cannot do with anybody else at any other time. And the shortcomings that they have with him in terms of the fluidity of ball movement, the other guys who are also elite, insanely elite players having more opportunities offensively than what they have when he's on the floor doing what he does, doesn't change the fact that they are still better with him. That doesn't mean that they're still not the best team out there without him, which they also are. By a country mile, as far as I'm concerned. So when you say this thing is going to fall apart because everything falls apart, it's non-controversial. The question is when. It's not happening this year. It ain't happening next year. It's not happening barring injuries for the next, 2-3 seasons? Give me 8 straight finals with this Warriors team. If they keep Curry,
Kevin Durant's not coming back.
That's fine. Who's not Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant.
That's fine. I still say I'm not saying they're not the best team. They're still the best team even without Kevin Durant. They are the best team without Kevin Durant.
Totally.
They're not better without him, though.
I want to be right so bad. I want Kevin Durant to come back and the Warriors to lose. It's just so I could be right. But it's not going to happen. You're right.
It's not going to happen.
But I don't agree with the premise that they're better. I don't. I think that they are the same in a different way.
In any case, they're better than the Raptors. They're better than every other team in the NBA, with or without Kevin Durant. We agree on that point.
Yep.
And even if Kevin Durant leaves at the end of this year, or as far as I'm concerned, even if he doesn't, this falling apart that you're speaking of is not. I mean, show me when it's going to happen. Steph's 30 years old. How old's Klay Thompson? 29.
Well, the
30?
thing is, we're never going to have the answer to the question because Kevin Durant's going to leave after this.
Okay, so but if he leaves, this thing's not falling apart.
Totally.
So you think it's falling apart only if he stays because he is a cancer?
Yes. And I think that Kevin Durant is the best player in the world right now when he's healthy. And when you have the best player in the world, you will always be the number one contender for the NBA championship. But every other part of the Golden State Warriors organization is better without Kevin Durant. Steve Kerr is a better coach. You can play Steve Kerr's style a lot more easily. The lineups you can play are more diverse. You have more depth. You galvanize. Draymond Green is an all-NBA player when Kevin Durant's not on the court. Draymond Green shoots 25% from the corner when Kevin Durant's on the court. Steph Curry is one of the top 3 players in the world.
Yeah.
And we were reminded of that every time Kevin Durant is not on the court. Yeah. We're ranking him behind guys like Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook when he is on the court. That's ludicrous. But that's the give and take you have with an ISO scorer like Kevin Durant. I don't know, man. Maybe Kevin Durant re-signs a max deal with the Warriors, and maybe the Warriors just win 5 more in a row. And maybe I'm completely wrong. But at the end of the day, they will not be remembered with the same reverence. If Kevin Durant re-signs and they keep winning championships, they will not be remembered with the same reverence as if Kevin Durant walks and they win another one. Or if Kevin Durant wants and they don't win another one. If they win one without him this year, I think it solidifies their legacy as the greatest team of all time. I think either way, they're in the mix, no doubt. But if they win one without Kevin Durant, it solidifies their legacy as the greatest team of all time.
I mean, they already have, right? Twice.
Totally. Well, I guess the best way I could say it, the best way I could say this is if the Warriors win the championship this year without Kevin Durant, Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala are going to the NBA Hall of Fame. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson already are. Kevin Durant already is. If the Warriors win it without Kevin Durant, those guys go in the Hall of Fame. If Kevin Durant comes back and they win it, whatever, it impacts the legacies of those two guys.
Let me ask you this. Who's the second best team in the NBA?
Man, I think it's like a 5-way race.
Okay. I mean, give me some teams.
I think that the Bucks, the Raptors, the Nuggets, the Blazers are all right there.
I agree with you. How many Hall of Famers are on any of those teams? How many Hall of Famers are on those teams combined?
Well, I think Giannis is for sure a Hall of Famer.
Like Giannis.
Kawhi Leonard's for sure a Hall of Famer.
No doubt.
I think that, it's too early for Jokic. It's too early for Dame.
Yep.
I think Russell Westbrook's a Hall of Famer. I think that the Thunder are not quite in that second best range, but they're in the top 10. You know, they're a contender. They're a contender until they're not anymore. But I think that Kyrie Irving is a borderline guy. With the Celtics. Everybody else to be determined.
You've given me
Joel Embiid,
3 surefires and 3 futures on 6 different teams.
And the Warriors have 3 surefires on 1 team.
And maybe 2 futures.
Yep.
What else do you need to know than that?
Right, but it also in the NBA, the symbiotic relationship between those 2 things, winning championships and being remembered, is interesting, right? I mean, because there's you can't just be the 3rd best player on the 2nd best team in the NBA and go to the Hall of Fame. If you are a 3rd best player on a championship team, though, you're for sure in the running for Hall of Fame. And look at guys like Dave Cowan or Sam Jones, some of the guys with the Celtics, or James Worthy. James Worthy was the 3rd best player on the Lakers for a decade. First ballot Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer, yeah.
Right?
Right.
Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, however, which way you want to splice it. These guys are 3rd, 4th best guys on their teams, Hall of Famers.
Of course, being the 3rd or 4th best guy.
When you got Michael Jordan.
When it's Kareem and Magic.
Totally.
Or, whatever.
Totally.
However you want to do it. Pretty good.
Well,
and that's what this team has.
But that's also like the history of the NBA, right? That's why it's so funny that there's been so much hoopla over the last 10 to 15 years about quote-unquote super teams. Every team that's won the championship is a super team.
Yeah, it's true.
You're a super team when you win the championship. You have to have 3 Hall of Fame players.
And the Golden State Warriors are the superest of the super teams, and there is no other close super team with or without Kevin Durant.
I always go back to it. The Los Angeles Lakers had to trade for Wilt Chamberlain to be able to beat the Celtics. And they already had Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. They had the logo. And they still had to trade for Wilt Chamberlain to beat the Celtics. And they still only did it twice.
I realize that these players are probably too similar to be super functional. But if Kevin Durant leaves in free agency and AD leaves in free agency and they go to Los Angeles to play with LeBron James, okay?
Yep.
Who you got, Warriors versus Lakers?
So interesting.
That's all I need to know. And that's if those parties all come together.
And
right?
that's why I root so hard for the Warriors that don't include Kevin Durant to win. Because I think that they are, regardless if they're the greatest team in the history of the NBA, they're absolutely the most transcendent. Because without Kevin Durant, the rest of that team is organically built with an organic and unique style. Steve Kerr was on nobody's list as a top head coach. He was a GM. He's not a coach. It was incredibly controversial when Mark Jackson was fired. I mean, the Warriors won 53 games.
Mark Jackson was the first type of situation that we had now in Toronto. Where the coach that everybody thought, well, look at it, what a great job. They won 50 games for the first time in franchise history back to back.
Right. And then he's out, and they replace him with Steve Kerr. But to take a completely polarizing player like Draymond Green, who was considered a cancer, considered too demonstrative, considered too fat.
Second-round draft pick.
Second-round draft pick. Turn him into what he's become. It's epic. To take a guy like Klay Thompson, who was, a kind of an outsider fringe recruit who somehow got Washington State in the top 25 for a brief moment in time, but really, what is this guy? And boom, he's arguably the best or second best shooter in the history of the league. To take a guy that had no doubt some of the worst physical ailments or the prognostication for an injury-riddled career like Steph Curry. I mean, every team that passed on Steph Curry, well, there's no way his ankles are going to last. There's no way he's going to last.
And also, he's the tiniest person in the history since Muggsy Bogues.
Right. And then, I mean, it's such a spectacular story, and that's why the Kevin Durant thing just ruined it from just the purity of it.
Yeah.
The reason I think this puts such a bitter taste in so many people's mouths is they have never and will never need Kevin Durant to win championships, but they're going to win a bunch with him. And so it taints the legacy.
Yeah.
And I think that's why purists like me root against it.
I think there's a reality to that. I just don't feel it the same way that you feel it, and it's rooted in my different orientation to Kevin Durant.
What if the Raptors won?
The entire city of Toronto should be owned by Kawhi Leonard.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, pump it up.
Looking for a sweet summer deal? You'll find them at your local Town Pump. Right now, buy any size fountain drink for only $1. Grab a delicious corn dog while you're at it. 2 for $2.22. Town Pump Food Stores. Proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Hey folks, the best season of the year is upon us. That's right, it's tax return season, and there's one place to have the most fun and make that refund check stretch further than anywhere else, Selway Armory. Selway Armory has the largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories of anywhere around, and they have the expertise to go with it. It's not everywhere that you can shop local and save money, but Selway Armory will meet or beat any box store price, and your money stays in Montana. It's tax return time, so get more bang for your buck at Selway Armory. Visit online at selwayarmory.com. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
Some so-called sports bars, you spend so much time fighting to see the TV, you're better off just staying home. Others show the game, but a basket of stale rye chips is not exactly your idea of a good game grub. At the Desperado, you get front row seats to every single spring baseball and NASCAR event, plus all the spring NBA and NHL postseason action. And with juicy burgers, ice-cold brews, and the best wings in town, you'll leave the Desperado satisfied whether your team won or lost. The Desperado Sports Tavern, where the emphasis is sports, food, and good times on South Russell, across from the Y.
Still emerging from your winter hibernation and need to get your bearings straight? Cruise on down to Port of Missoula for all your spring and summer needs. Come check out their men's and women's streetwear, sunglasses, and shoes from brands like Vans, Adidas, Thrasher, Volcom, and the original Port of Missoula brand. They also have all your skating needs covered, from tune-ups to fresh-made custom boards. Port of Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989, on the Hip Strip, 618 South Higgins.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
It's not that you broke my stride. I didn't know I was going. 5-gallon bucket, paintbrush in mine.
Enough talking about what hasn't happened yet. Let's talk about what has happened at Dang-Nab NHL Stanley Cup Finals, Game 1.
The NBA is by far the greatest mechanism and fodder for talk radio, because even people that don't necessarily have speculation intrinsically within them can just speculate about it. We just did it for 45 minutes. We just talked about nothing that we will ever know the answer to.
Well,
it's tremendous.
20 minutes we started on what did happen in the Eastern
Sure.
Cup. Yes, but you're right.
It's just amazing. I think that's what makes it so fun. It also makes it so hard to stay within the moment, because like right now we're about to see an NBA Finals. It could be a good one, could be a great one, could be a dud. I'm not sure. But the looking forward is always so prevalent in the NBA. Who's going to do this offseason? What, you're always talking, what if this guy went here? What if this guy went here? Because it's a reality. There is no reality where like Antonio Brown could just go play with Aaron Rodgers. Like maybe a very slim reality, but like when you're talking about Kyrie and Kevin Durant can just go to New York. That's real. That is 100% real.
Yes, it is.
Anthony, like you just said, Anthony Davis could get. What if Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson just ended up on the Lakers? It's not that far-fetched.
Totally. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. The Tutel Nuanez podcast is available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Coulter, Game 1, Stanley Cup Final last night. The Bruins, after 10 days off, much like what Golden State will be experiencing Thursday, against a St. Louis Blues team that has been really the best team in the NHL since like the All-Star break, but started off really, really poorly, made a change at goalie. Now they got a rookie goalie who's been locked down and has been phenomenal in this postseason. The Blues come out, score a goal in the first period, score a goal early in the second period, are up 2-0. And Boston looks like they're struggling. And then all of a sudden, this team, which appears to be the best team in the NHL, asserts itself at home, scores a couple of goals, and then Torrey Krug, he can't be bothered with your nonsense. Torrey Krug tackled in his defensive zone in front of the Blues goalie. And there's, a spat that's happening behind the play. He loses his helmet. And he gets up and he gets on his horse and goes about 75 of the 90 feet at absolutely full speed and just eliminates Robert Thomas from the St. Louis Blues with no helmet, by the way. The biggest,
no helmet's the best part.
Hit that you're completely clean, by the way. Great hit. but is just in such a fit of both anger and also it's the Stanley Cup final. You're playing for your name on the trophy in this one. And a hit that just resounded through all of Boston to push the Bruins to another level, it seemed to me, from that point forward. Sometimes you just need moments of inspiration, and Krug provided that for the Bruins in Game 1. They score a goal. They go up 3-2. They add an empty netter and win 4-2. 4 unanswered goals for Boston to take Game 1 going away.
One of the most interesting parts of hockey to me is the notion of not who's the best team, but who's playing the best now is certainly the most important in hockey of any of the 4 major pro team sports in America. Who's the best on paper? Who's the best broadly? Who's the best overall? Who's the best on day one? Who's the best at the All-Star break? None of that matters. Who's the best right now? And what you just said, the St. Louis Blues were good all year, and they are absolutely the best right now. Why is that? Why is it that I guess not why, but how? How is it that teams can be? I mean, say the Blues were, one of the 10 best teams in the league coming into the stretch run.
Yeah.
And then they transformed into the number 1 team. What leads to that?
That's a good question. I'm not going to pretend to know the
because you can't overcome. Like it seems like you can. The overcoming talent is not the right way to phrase that. But like in the NBA, if you have LeBron James or you have Kawhi Leonard or you have Kevin Durant or you have Steph Curry, like you just have a chance. Period.
Yeah.
In the NFL, if you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Drew Brees, you got Tom Brady, you got a chance. And if you don't have those guys, you don't have as good of a chance. In the NHL, it seems like that doesn't necessarily mean as much. If you got a group of dudes who all play with each other and for each other, it seems like that is way more important than the individual.
Well, look, with Pastrnak and Brad Marchand and the group, defensively that Boston has, they're as good on paper probably as any team in the NHL. And also, I always kill momentum. I think momentum's from game to game is such a joke. Like, no, it's not. Like, you're not carrying momentum because you won yesterday into a game tomorrow. But in hockey, I think that is it's more possible. It happens more in hockey because there's a certain sense of belief. Here's the thing. In basketball, you can have a bad shooting night and you're still going to score 87 points. And in football, you can have a bad offensive performance, but you can still see how many yards you've gained and assess things through that metric. Hockey, you got a goal or you don't, and there's not that many of them. And even though you can very clearly assess what team is, sort of getting the better of the action or has more shots on goal and all that kind of stuff, a team that just feels like it's not really there or not really clicking for them offensively can have the hardest time scoring goals. It happens to individual players all the time in the NHL. It happens to teams as well. The Bruins goes the other direction. They just know that they're going to put the thing in. They just know they're going to get buckets. And one way or another, they do, and they wear you down. And they're also playing at home. I mean, that's a big part of it as well. But in any case, a big win for Boston. Ones the Blues probably needed to get, especially when they had a 2-0 lead. They didn't get it. Game 2 tomorrow night from Boston TD Garden Arena. I'll tell you more about Dennis Leary when I have a chance to, because it was a great intro to Game 1 as well. Boys and girls, have a good night. Happy birthday, Tina.
Canyon River